On a cold sidewalk, a homeless man sat with nothing but a sketch pad. His fingers trembled, yet he drew with quiet determination. People passed by, some glancing, most ignoring, but one stranger stopped and bought a portrait. What happened next changed the artist's life forever. The city never slowed down. Cars honked, footsteps echoed, and people rushed past as if time itself was chasing them. Among the noise and movement sat Daniel, a man who once had dreams but now only had memories. He was homeless. His clothes were worn, his shoes had holes, and his face carried the tiredness of endless nights under the open sky. But in his hands there was something different, something fragile, yet powerful. A sketchbook. The pages were filled with portraits he had drawn of strangers passing by. Some were quick outlines, others more detailed, but each one carried life, soul, and emotion. Art was Daniel's escape. When he drew, he forgot the hunger gnawing at his stomach. He forgot the cold that seeped into his bones. He forgot the judgment in people's eyes. With every stroke of his pencil, he felt alive again, like the man he used to be. Once, Daniel had been a promising art student. He had dreams of showcasing his work in galleries, of seeing his paintings on walls that people admired. But life took a cruel turn. His mother, the only family he had, fell ill. Medical bills piled up. He worked day and night, juggling jobs to keep her alive, but in the end he lost her. With her gone, Daniel lost his anchor, his home, and slowly, his hope. Now his art was all he had left. Every day he sat in the same spot downtown with his little sign, "Portraits for $5. Pay what you can." Some days no one stopped. Other days, he earned just enough for a sandwich or a cup of coffee. But he never complained. Deep down, he believed art still had meaning. He believed people could still see beauty, even in someone like him. Yet the city wasn't always kind. Children pointed at him, parents pulled them away. Some mocked his work. Others tossed coins without even looking at his drawings. But Daniel kept going. He kept sketching because, in the silence of pencil against paper, he felt human again. As the sun set one evening, Daniel looked at his drawings, faces of strangers he would never know. He smiled faintly, though sadness lingered in his eyes. He didn't want pity. He just wanted someone, anyone, to see him, not as a homeless man, but as an artist. And soon that wish was about to come true. The next morning, Daniel sat in his usual spot. The wind was colder that day, and his hands shook as he tried to sketch. People hurried past, bundled in warm coats, barely noticing him. Hours went by, and not a single person stopped. His stomach growled, but he ignored it. He pulled his blanket tighter and began sketching a little girl who had paused near him, holding her mother's hand. He smiled at her, and she smiled back. But her mother quickly tugged her away, whispering, "Don't talk to people like him." The words pierced deeper than the cold. Daniel lowered his head, staring at his sketch pad. People like him. Was that all he was now? Just another man on the streets, invisible, unwanted, dismissed. As the day dragged on, frustration grew inside him. For the first time, he considered giving up. His art hadn't saved him. His passion hadn't brought him closer to the life he once dreamed of. Maybe it was time to stop pretending. He tore out one of his sketches and crumpled it, throwing it aside. His eyes stung with tears he tried to hide. Around him, people laughed, chatted, lived their lives, and he was just a shadow in the background. By evening, the streets glowed with neon lights, and crowds filled the sidewalks. Daniel sat quietly, defeated. He wondered if he should pack up and find another corner, or maybe stop altogether. Then footsteps approached. A man in a long coat stopped in front of Daniel. His presence was different, calm, curious, not hurried like the others. He bent down, picking up the crumpled sketch Daniel had tossed aside. Carefully, he unfolded it and stared at the drawing. "Did you draw this?" the man asked. Daniel hesitated, unsure if it was mockery or genuine interest. "Yes, it's mine." The man studied him, then the sketch pad, then Daniel again. "You have real talent. How much for a portrait?" Daniel blinked. He hadn't expected kindness. $5. Or whatever you want to give." The man nodded and sat down right there on the sidewalk. "Draw me." For the first time all day, Daniel felt his heart steady. His hands moved with purpose, his pencil flowing across the page. He studied the man's eyes, his features, his quiet strength. People walking by glanced, some even stopped to watch. Slowly, Daniel's world lit up again with every line he drew. When he finished, he handed the portrait to the man with trembling hands. The man looked at it for a long time, his expression unreadable. Finally, he smiled. "You don't know who I am, do you?" he asked softly. Daniel shook his head, confused. The man extended his hand. "My name is Michael, and I own the largest art gallery in the city." For a moment, Daniel froze. He thought he had misheard. An art gallery owner? Sitting on the ground with him? Admiring his sketch? Michael's eyes were filled with sincerity. "Your work is extraordinary, raw, honest. It deserves to be seen." Daniel's voice cracked. "But I'm just no one. A man on the street." Michael shook his head firmly. "You're an artist. That's what I see." He reached into his coat and handed Daniel not $5, but a crisp envelope. "This is for the portrait," he said with a smile. Inside was far more money than Daniel had ever held in years. But more than the money, it was the recognition, the validation that made Daniel's hands shake. Michael continued, "I want you to come by my gallery tomorrow. Bring your sketches. People need to see your gift." Tears welled in Daniel's eyes. He tried to speak but couldn't. For so long, he had been invisible, discarded, called worthless, and now someone saw him. Not as a beggar, not as a failure, but as the artist he always knew he was. That night, Daniel didn't sleep under the weight of despair. He slept with hope for the first time in years. The next day, carrying his sketchpad close to his chest, he walked into the gallery. His heart raced as Michael welcomed him warmly. For the first time in forever, Daniel's drawings were displayed on walls, not the cold walls of the streets, but in a place where people admired, respected, and celebrated them. Visitors were amazed. Some bought his sketches. Others wanted portraits. Daniel stood there overwhelmed, realizing his life had changed in a way he never thought possible. The man who was once invisible was now seen. The artist who was once ignored was now cherished. And all it took was one act of kindness, one stranger who stopped, who looked deeper, who believed. From that day on, Daniel was no longer just a homeless man with a sketchpad. He was Daniel, the artist, whose story inspired countless others to see beyond appearances and recognize the hidden dreams in every soul. Kindness has the power to lift someone from despair to hope. One moment of recognition can rewrite an entire life. Never underestimate the value of truly seeing someone. Behind every face, there's a story waiting to be heard. And sometimes, one act of kindness is all it takes to change the world.